Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus, so welcome to Yacc. It's yet another Crowcast where I pick a game I played for a week and not talk about it. This week's game is Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. It was released in 1991 and it's a platformer developed by Nintendo EAD and published by Nintendo. And also there'll be spoilers up ahead just so you know. First, a little backstory. I remember the first time I played a Super Nintendo, and usually this game came bundled with the system. So after school, there was this daycare that all the kids went to. I don't know the specific word for it, but my parents just kept on working, and they dropped us, me and my brother, off at this school, and they had a Super Nintendo set up with Super Mario World. And it's kind of interesting because when it was raining outside, we were allowed to play it, but otherwise we weren't. We spent most of the day outside by a lakeside, by a beach. But it's kind of a funny story to tell because this was the first time I ever saw a Super Nintendo. So as you start up a new game, you're well prompted to select a new game. And you start out in this island called Dinosaur Island. And the first place you will visit is the home of Yoshi. And Yoshi was intended to be in the Super Mario Bros. 3, but there was some technical limitations to the console, so you couldn't ride this awesome dinosaur. So Yoshi has these abilities where he basically eats everything, and depending on what you eat, there are different effects. So if you eat a red shell, he spits out fire. If he eats like a blue shell, I think he grows wings and can fly. And there are all these mechanics. You get on and off Yoshi by doing a spin jump attack, and this is a little different because you use the spin attack with Mario as well to break blocks and bounce upon spiky enemies and stuff as well. And Yoshi also acts as an extra double jump, so you can sacrifice him to get to hidden areas and stuff, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So of course Princess Toadstool is missing, and it's probably Bowser that's behind it. That's usually the case. So Mario starts out with 5 lives, but it's really easy to rack up on lives, and because in the early stages they're like really easy to farm. So if you start by heading left, you will eventually find the yellow switch boxes, and those switches, once they're been jumped on and activated, they act as blocks on stages, so they contain power-ups such as fire flowers, mushrooms, and capes. And they're useful, and as I said, there are a couple of colorful switches you will encounter, like red, green, and yellow. There are other power-ups that will be important as well, such as the stars and the P-balloon. I didn't understand much why they would need the P-balloon, because with the cape, Mario can more or less fly around all over the place, and it actually breaks the game on a couple of places, because it's like a bit like the raccoon tail in Super Mario Bros. 3, you get a running start and you jump up in the air, and once you start to glide down a bit, you can tap left on the D-pad, and if you do this with like a rhythm to it, you can glide through the stage, more or less making it redundant, the stage itself, I mean. There's another mechanic with power-ups, so if you, for instance, have a mushroom and then you pick up a fire flower, it will be stored in the top of the screen in the center. So if you lose the fire flower, the mushroom will drop down for you in order to catch it. So it's kind of a nice little thing to have. So if you head right on Dinosaur Island, you will eventually encounter the cute lizard dinosaur Yoshi. And I talked a bit about him. He's this rideable dinosaur that pretty much can eat anything. He also works as an extra hit, because if you get hit while on Yoshi, he will run away, but if you manage to catch up with him, you can actually continue to ride him. That sounded bad, but he's useful in so many ways in this game. So at the end of each day, there's this like bar, I don't know what to call it. It's like a bar that goes up and down, and if you manage to clip it at the top of the pole, you will get 50 points, and that will reward you 1 up. So that's a useful thing to know. I didn't know about that when I played it this week. And also throughout the stages there are these mini like bars that you can check off, and they will act as checkpoints. And also a very important mechanic that I found out about the hard way is if you beat in a stage, you can press start and select to just exit that stage. I think it says exactly how to do this in the manual, but since I played this on the SNES Mini, there is no manual, nothing to tell you about this. but it's useful when you need to get a couple of extra like 1-ups or like a certain power up to beat a stage. If you know where to find it, you can just do the quick start and select to exit the stage trick. You can also pick up these coins throughout the levels called dragon coins, and I don't know why they're called dragon coins, but they have Yoshi's face on it, and if you collect 5 of these you also get an extra 1-up. So just as any other Mario game, this game introduces platforming levels, water levels and castles. And the first castle is called Iggy Castle. And it's kind of a funny thing. I have this Bulgarian friend named Iggy, and when she got to know about this, I posted this screenshot into her Discord about her castle actually existing in the real world. She actually laughed about it. But anyway, this Iggy Castle introduced lava and fences, and you can climb these fences and you can actually switch side of the fence. I think it's like a layer thing, so you can knock off the Koopas on the other side of the fence, and it's a little nice little thing they got going there. And also throughout the levels there are these point of advice blocks, so if you bump them with your head you will get helpful tips and whatnot. So the boss fight itself with Iggy is, well, there's like a lava pool and there's this swaying platform. You have to knock Iggy down into the lava to win. And the next land is called Donut Land, and that's the thrown out theme there. Like everything in this game is named after food somehow, so I think that's kind of funny. Oh, I forgot to talk about when you enter a level, there's usually marked with a yellow color, but if it has a red, I believe, blinking color, it means that it has an optional exit. So there are these pathways that you can more or less go around the whole world. You can end up in these special stages and the Star Road, I believe it's called, which are these challenging levels that can eventually unlock like shortcuts to the game. I'm not very good at platforming. It demands a lot of muscle memory, but I managed to find a couple of shortcuts and whatnot. So this game is actually really easy to beat if you know what you're doing. Well, like most games I suppose, but I've seen speedruns of this and it's kind of amazing how creative people can be. I know I said it a lot about speedrunning and stuff, but some speedruns are actually really impressive. So the first level in the Donut Land is called Donut Plane 1, and it introduces the cape, and as I said, the cape is kind of the broken item of this game. If you have a little stretch of land you can run on and you use your cape correctly, you can more or less skip some stages, making them total pushovers. I remember there's a level coming up where there's this up in the clouds and you basically try to avoid saw blades, and it's platforming, and as I said, I'm really bad at platforming. So once I figured out the technique with the capes, you can fly. I more or less flew over the whole stage, and if you time your jump right, and this is kind of funny, you hold the button and if you can bounce off on enemies and gain extra momentum, and it's really fun. So I talked about levels with different exits. So in order to exit one of those levels, you need to find a key. And the key fits in a keyhole, and that will transport you to an alternate route or another, like the Star Road or the special levels. So one of those is kind of the infamous one where you need to sacrifice a Yoshi to get an extra jump to get up to a keyhole. And I don't know. So Donut Land's castle is guarded by another Koopa, and I forgot the name obviously, but this stage introduces lava and the thumps, those blocks that try to crush Mario, and you have these dry bones. And there's a bit of spring puzzling here and avoiding spikes, and it's while everything is scrolling, of course, and I don't like that, but I managed to beat the boss. So he climbs up in the ceiling, and once he gets like on top of you, he falls down, so you have to time your jumping right. And if you are on the ground while he hits, there's like a shockwave, so he will more or less, hit you. But once you learn the pattern, it's kind of easy. So after beating this boss, I went back to some red levels and find some other shortcuts, and I really like this game because it's more like an exploring adventure than anything else. And I usually say this, but I don't want to spoil too much of the game. I know it's an old game, and those people that probably watch this or listen to this, they've beaten it a couple of times, but these games, like most Super Nintendo games, needs to be experienced and needs to be played, in my opinion. So gameplay. Go through the food lands named well after food and find Bowser and rescue Peach, or not Peach, but Princess Toadstool in the end. Control, the D-pad moves Mario around, the Y button runs, the B button jumps, the A button do the spiral spinny thingy jump, and start pauses, and start and select lets you leave or exit the level if you've beaten it once. graphics. It's a little bit hard to explain, but it's like Super Mario Bros. 3, but a lot more vibrant, a lot more detail. And yeah, that's it. Sound and music. Koji Kondo made the soundtrack for this game, and it's happy, upbeat Mario music, and it's really good. Easter egg, secrets, and glitches. So there's one glitch I know which you can do with Yoshi. He has this thing where he picks up things in his mouth with his tongue, so he can pick up anything more or less or eat it. So you can pick up these P blocks, then if you hit it, it will turn the solid blocks into coins. So what you can do is you spit it out, and you jump on it, activate it, and you can lick it up with his tongue again. It's totally useless, but yeah, Yoshi can do it. It's a glitch. In conclusion, I wrote yes, play it. It is a tight platformer with good controls, but at the beginning of the week I didn't have the controls down, so I died so many times. But once I got into it, a couple of days in, I actually got better at the control scheme and everything, and it felt more natural. The best way I could explain it was that it felt a bit floaty with Mario somehow. I can't explain it any otherwise, but once I got into it, I had a lot of fun. So this is a game I definitely can recommend, and as I said before at the beginning of the episode, it's one of those games that came bundled with the system, so it's one of those, I think most people played it because it came with the system and whatnot. Yeah, I can definitely recommend the game. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.